My wife cheated with her boss, then hired a scammer to drain our $200, $0 savings, and now she's trying to steal the house. How do I fight her in court? Hello, everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing a story like this, but here I am. It all started with what seemed like a normal marriage, 2 kids, a nice house, steady jobs. We had our problems like everyone does, but I thought we were solid. Then, out of nowhere, everything fell apart. The most unexpected thing, I found out my wife, Lisa, was cheating on me with her boss, Mark. I didn't see it coming, not at all. It was like a bad soap opera plot, but it was real life, and it hit me like a freight train. I first noticed something was off about 3 months ago. Lisa started working late more often, and when she was home, she was distracted, secretive. She'd hide her phone, even more than usual. Little things, you know. I'd ask her about her day and she'd brush it off, say she was tired or just busy. But then I started catching her in little lies. She'd say she was at the office, but her location on my phone showed she was somewhere else, sometimes at a spa, sometimes at a friend's house. I didn't want to believe it, but the signs were piling up. One day I decided to check her phone while she was out. I know, it's invasive, but I was desperate. I found texts from Mark, her boss, talking about meetings late at night, plans to meet up, and even explicit messages. They weren't just colleagues talking shop. It was clear they'd been sneaking around for months. The messages were full of flirtation, and she didn't even bother to hide it anymore. That's when it hit me. She'd been lying to my face all this time. When I confronted her that night, I expected her to deny everything, maybe cry, maybe beg for forgiveness. Instead, she looked at me with that bitchy smirk and said, "You're overreacting, Jason. It's just sex and it doesn't mean anything. You're paranoid. Mark's just a friend and I was going to tell you eventually." Her words felt like knives. I could see right through her lies. She was trying to gaslight me, making me doubt my own instincts, but I knew the truth. I saw the texts, the secret meetings, the way she looked at him like he was the only thing that mattered. The emotional impact was brutal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, like I'd been punched in the gut repeatedly. All those years, all that trust, gone in an instant. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything in my head. The moments I missed, the signs I ignored, the times I thought she was just stressed or tired. It was like my entire world was crumbling. I didn't want to believe it, but I couldn't unsee what I'd found. The woman I loved, the mother of my children, was cheating on me with her boss. And she was lying about it, trying to make me doubt myself. I remember sitting alone in the dark that night, feeling the weight of it all. The betrayal wasn't just about the affair. It was about how she lied to my face, how she played me for a fool. I felt anger surge through me, anger at her, at Mark, at myself for not seeing it sooner. But underneath that, there was this deep sadness. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Now I wasn't sure what I was supposed to feel anymore. The trust was shattered, and I knew I had some serious decisions to make. I needed to figure out if I could forgive her, if I even wanted to, or if I should cut my losses and move on. But one thing was clear. My life was about to change forever. After that night, everything felt different. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. My mind kept circling back to what I'd uncovered, and I kept asking myself how I'd missed all the signs. Lisa, my wife, she was still acting like nothing had changed, but I saw through her. She played her usual bitchy attitude, dismissing my concerns, calling me paranoid or jealous. She even had the nerve to say, "You're overreacting, Jason. You're just insecure. You don't trust me, do you?" That made me boiling mad. Trust was gone, and I was done with her lies. I started digging deeper. I wanted to know how long this had been going on, how much she'd hidden, and whether there was more I didn't know. I hired a private investigator, not because I wanted to catch her in the act again, but because I needed proof. I thought maybe I'd find her sneaking around again, or get some confirmation of what I already knew. It took a few days, but the PI came back with some shocking news. Lisa had been seeing Mark for over a year. They met at fancy restaurants, stayed in hotels, and even took trips together, trips she never told me about. And the worst part, she'd been secretly funneling money to him from our joint account. I'd always thought we were careful with money, but she drained thousands, possibly tens of thousands over the past year. I was stunned. How could she do this? All our savings, the house we worked so hard for, was being siphoned away by her and her lover. It was like she'd turned into a different person. I was furious, but I also felt betrayed on a deeper level. We had a life together, or so I thought, and now I saw her for what she truly was, a liar, a cheat, someone who was willing to destroy everything we built for a quick fling. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. The next step was confronting her again. This time I was ready. I wanted her to see that I knew everything. I sat her down in the living room, my hands trembling, and laid out everything, the texts, the trips, the money. Her face twisted into that bitchy smirk again. "Oh, Jason, you're overreacting. It's not what it looks like. Mark and I were just having fun. It's not serious." She spun some story about how she and Mark had a special connection, and how she was just feeling lost and needed something to feel alive. That made me sick. I saw her for what she was, a selfish, manipulative woman who didn't care about our marriage or our kids. I told her I was done. I told her she was a lying, cheating bitch who had ruined everything. She looked at me with that condescending smirk and said, "You're just jealous because Mark is better in bed than you ever were." That was the last straw. I felt rage, but also a profound sadness. I realized I couldn't stay with someone who lied and cheated so blatantly. I knew I had to do something about this. She was trying to steal the house, our home, and I couldn't let her get away with it. I felt like I was waking up from a nightmare, but the nightmare was real, and I was about to fight back hard. I started thinking about how I could protect my assets, my future, and make sure she didn't screw me over completely. That's when I started planning my next move, and trust me, it's going to get intense. After that confrontation, I knew I couldn't just sit back and let her run wild. Lisa was already making moves to try and take everything. Our house, our savings, everything we'd worked for. She started acting even more bitchy and entitled, throwing fits whenever I questioned her or tried to set boundaries. She claimed she had every right to do what she wanted because she was miserable and deserved to be happy. But that was just her way of gaslighting me even more. It was clear she was determined to keep this affair and her plans to drain us financially, no matter what I said or did. I had to act fast. My first move was to get legal advice. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in family law and property disputes. I explained everything, the affair, the money drain, her attempts to manipulate the situation, and asked how I could protect my rights. The lawyer told me I needed to document everything, her affair, her expenses, her conversations. I also arranged to get a copy of our bank statements, credit card bills, and anything that could prove she was trying to steal the house or drain our savings. I knew she'd try to hide her tracks, so I started taking pictures of anything suspicious around the house, text messages on her phone, her hiding places, anything that could be useful. Meanwhile, Lisa's attitude grew more aggressive. She started to threaten me, saying she'd take everything if I didn't back off. She even hired her own lawyer, claiming I was the one trying to control her and ruin her life. But I wasn't going down without a fight. I had the proof now, her lies, her affair, the money she'd siphoned off, and I was determined to use it. I also secretly contacted the bank to freeze any large transactions she might try to make, especially if she was planning to transfer money or sell the house without my knowledge. One day, she pushed me too far. She told me she was going to start the process of selling the house behind my back, claiming she was the rightful owner because she'd paid some of the mortgage, even though that was a lie. I felt my blood boil. I couldn't let her do that. I decided to file for an emergency injunction to stop her from selling or refinancing the house. The legal process was complicated, but I knew I had to act fast. I gathered all the evidence I had: texts, bank statements, witness statements from friends who saw her sneaking around, and handed everything over to my lawyer. The hearing was set for a week later. In the meantime, Lisa's behavior only got worse. She started smearing me to our friends and family, calling me paranoid and jealous, trying to turn everyone against me. She told everyone I was abusive, that I was the one cheating, that I was trying to ruin her life. It was a classic move, trying to isolate me, make me look bad. But I knew the truth and I had my evidence. The day of the court hearing, I was nervous but confident. I knew I had to fight for what was rightfully mine, not just the house but my dignity and my sanity. I sat in that courtroom, listening to her lawyer spin her lies, and I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her get away with stealing our home and destroying what little trust was left. I was ready to do whatever it took to stop her, legal battles, financial traps, whatever it took, because this wasn't just about money. It was about my life, my family, and my future. The court date came sooner than I expected, and I was prepared for a battle. Lisa showed up with her fake tears, her bitchy smirk, and her lawyer, definitely trying to play the victim. I sat there, clutching the folder with all my evidence, feeling a mixture of anger and determination. I knew she was trying to manipulate the system, but I had proof of everything. Her affair, the money she'd stolen, her plans to sell the house behind. My back. I was ready to fight for what was mine. The judge listened carefully as Lisa's lawyer spun her stories, claiming I was a controlling husband who was trying to take her away from her happiness. Lisa, with her fake sobs, said she was just trying to find herself, that she deserved to be happy, even if it meant betraying her vows. But I cut her off with the evidence. I played the texts, the bank statements, the witness statements I'd gathered. I explained how she'd been funneling money to Mark, how she'd been sneaking around, and how she was trying to unlawfully sell our house. The courtroom was tense, and I could see the judge was starting to see through her act. When it was my turn, I laid out everything. How I discovered her affair, the financial drain, her threats to take the house. I explained that I wanted to protect my rights and stop her from doing any more damage. I emphasized that I'd been blindsided and betrayed, but I was still committed to doing the right thing. I presented the evidence, and the judge looked at it carefully. After a long pause, he issued an emergency order preventing Lisa from selling or refinancing the house until the case was settled. It was a small victory, but it felt huge at the time. I knew I had to keep pushing, stay vigilant, and prepare for the next phase of this legal battle. Lisa's reaction was classic. She looked furious and tried to argue, but the judge wasn't buying her tears or her lies. The order was clear: no sale, no transfer, no refinancing without my approval. That bought me some time, but I knew she wouldn't give up that easily. She started to escalate her threats, trying to turn friends and family against me, claiming I was trying to ruin her life. I stayed quiet, focused on the evidence and the legal process. I also hired a financial investigator to track any hidden accounts or assets she might be trying to hide. I was determined to uncover everything. In the days that followed, Lisa's behavior grew more desperate. She began making frantic calls, threatening to ruin me professionally, even accusing me of abuse, stuff she knew wouldn't hold up but was meant to intimidate. I kept my cool, knowing that her tactics wouldn't work if I stayed calm and collected. I also started gathering character witnesses, people who knew the truth about her lies and her manipulative ways. I wanted to show the court that she was the one causing chaos, not me. Meanwhile, I was also preparing for the inevitable divorce proceedings. I wanted full custody of the kids, and I was determined to keep my rights to the house. I knew she'd try to fight that too, claiming she deserved everything because she was the mother. But I had the evidence of her affair, her financial betrayal, and her manipulative tactics. I wasn't going down without a fight. This was about protecting my family and my future, and I was ready to go all the way. I just hoped I could come out of this whole nightmare with some semblance of stability and peace. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal battles, manipulative tactics, and mounting stress. Lisa didn't back down. Instead, she doubled down on her lies, trying to paint me as the villain. She hired a new lawyer, one who specialized in getting her every advantage, trying to argue that she was the primary caregiver, that she deserved the house because she was more invested, and that I was an overbearing husband trying to control her life. Meanwhile, I kept pushing forward with my evidence, showing the court her affair, her secret trips, and the financial drain she'd caused. I also discovered she had been secretly transferring money to her sister, trying to hide assets. I had my financial investigator dig into her accounts, and sure enough, she'd moved thousands of dollars into offshore accounts and hidden some jewelry and valuables in safe deposit boxes. It was clear she was planning to walk away with as much as she could, leaving me holding the bag. I gathered all this proof and handed it over to my lawyer, knowing it would be crucial in court. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, angry, and exhausted. Every day felt like a fight just to keep my head above water. I couldn't trust her anymore, and I was starting to realize I might need to prepare for a long, messy divorce. But at the same time, I knew I had to stay focused on the bigger picture, protecting my rights and making sure she couldn't steal everything from under my nose. One day, I found out. She was planning to file for sole custody of the kids, claiming I was unfit because I wasn't supportive enough of her new life. That was a low blow, but I had my witnesses, my evidence, and my own lawyer on my side. I filed for joint custody, and I prepared to fight for my rights as a father. I knew she was trying to break me, to use the kids as leverage, but I refused to let her manipulate that situation. Things got even more intense when she started spreading rumors about me, accusing me of cheating, being abusive, and even threatening to ruin my reputation professionally. I stayed quiet, knowing that her lies would fall apart in court if I presented the facts. I kept my focus on the legal process, gathering more evidence and staying calm under pressure. I hired a private investigator to watch her movements, just in case she tried to pull something sneaky. I was determined not to let her slip away with the house or the money. She'd gone too far already. Finally, the day came for the final hearing. I was nervous but confident in the evidence I had. I knew Lisa's lies would hold up, and I was ready to fight for my rights. The judge listened carefully, reviewing all the documents, the testimonies, and the evidence. I felt a wave of relief when the judge ruled in my favor, awarding me primary custody of the kids, confirming my ownership of the house, and ordering Lisa to pay back the money she'd siphoned from our accounts. It wasn't a perfect victory, but it was enough to start rebuilding my life. As I walked out of that courtroom, I felt a strange mixture of relief and exhaustion. I knew the battle wasn't over. She'd probably keep trying to undermine me, and I'd have to stay vigilant. But for now, I had won some crucial ground. I realized how much I'd learned from this nightmare, to trust my instincts, to document everything, and to stand up for myself no matter how much she tried to tear me down. I still had a long road ahead, but I was finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Looking back now, I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, waking up to betrayal, facing down a manipulative wife trying to steal everything I had. The whole experience taught me more about trust, resilience, and the importance of fighting for what's right than I ever wanted to learn. Lisa's lies, her affair, her attempts to drain our savings and take the house, those were all acts of desperation from a woman who clearly lost her moral compass somewhere along the way. I won't pretend it was easy. There were nights I cried myself to sleep, nights I wondered if I'd ever get out of this mess intact. But I did. I fought through it, not just with legal documents and evidence, but with a renewed sense of self. I learned to trust my instincts again, to see through the lies, and to stand firm even when everything seemed to be falling apart. The court's decision was a turning point, but more than that, it was a reminder that no matter how bad things get, you've got to keep fighting for what's yours, your home, your kids, your dignity. One thing I want to say to anyone out there who might find themselves in a similar situation: don't ignore the signs. Trust your gut. Document everything. Hire professionals who know the legal system, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Betrayal cuts deep, but it's not the end of the story. It's just a chapter. And I've come out of this chapter stronger, more aware, and ready to rebuild. In the end, Lisa's attempts to manipulate, lie, and steal only made me more determined. I've learned to value honesty, loyalty, and integrity, things she threw away without a second thought. I'm still healing, still rebuilding, but I know I'm better off without her. My kids are safe, my home is secure, and I've got a clear eye on my future. That's what matters most now. So if you're ever in a situation where someone you trusted turns out to be the opposite, remember you're stronger than you think. Stand your ground, get the evidence, and fight for what's right. Because in the end, the truth always finds a way to come out, and justice is worth every ounce of effort.